As someone who finds Treebeard's chapters among the most moving in The Lord of the Rings, the mystery of the Entwives has always haunted me. These ancient female Ents disappeared thousands of years before the War of the Ring, and their absence is one of Middle-earth's greatest tragedies. Treebeard speaks of them with such longing, such deep sadness, that you can feel the weight of ages in his words. But what actually happened to them? Did they survive? Could they return after Sauron's defeat? That's what we'll investigate in this video. Let's start with what Tolkien actually tells us about the Entwives and their disappearance. In The Two Towers, Treebeard explains their story to Merry and Pippin. The Entwives didn't simply vanish overnight. They gradually drifted apart from the Ents due to fundamentally different desires. Here's what Treebeard says. For the Entwives desired order and plenty and peace, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them. So the Entwives made gardens to live in, but we Ents went on wandering, and we only came to the gardens now and again. This is crucial. The separation wasn't caused by conflict or tragedy initially. It was a natural divergence. The Ents loved the wild forests, the untamed trees, the wilderness. The Entwives loved cultivation, agriculture, planned gardens. They wanted to teach plants to grow as they wished, to create order and beauty through careful tending. Treebeard continues with the geography of their separation. The Entwives crossed the great river and made new gardens and tilled new fields, and we saw them more seldom. After the darkness was overthrown, the land of the Entwives blossomed richly, and their fields were full of corn. So the Entwives settled east of the Anduin, in the region that would later become known as the Brown Lands. This was during the Second Age, and for a time, their gardens thrived. They became masters of agriculture, teaching men how to cultivate crops. But then disaster struck. Here's where the tragedy truly begins. Treebeard describes what happened. But Sauron could do such things. It is long ago, for Sauron grew powerful again, and the darkness was overthrown, but the land remained bare and empty. The Entwives' gardens were destroyed. Sauron, in his wars against the free peoples of Middle-earth, laid waste to the region where the Entwives had settled. The fertile lands became the Brown Lands, a desolate wasteland where nothing grows. And the Entwives, they vanished. Treebeard doesn't know what happened to them. No Ent does. The most heartbreaking part is Treebeard's continued hope. Despite thousands of years passing, despite searching and finding nothing, he still believes they might meet again. He even has a song about it. When spring unfolds the beechen leaf, and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream, and wind is on the brow, when stride is long, and breath is deep, and keen the mountain air, come back to me, and say my land is fair. But then he adds, sadly, but my home is not fair now. So what actually happened to the Entwives? Tolkien gives us several possibilities, but no definitive answer. The text suggests three main theories. First, they were destroyed when Sauron devastated their lands. This is the most tragic possibility, and perhaps the most likely. When Sauron's forces destroyed the gardens, the Entwives may have perished defending them, or died in the destruction. The Brown Lands remain barren even thousands of years later, suggesting catastrophic devastation. Second, they fled and survived elsewhere, but lost contact with the Ents. Perhaps they wandered further east, beyond the maps, beyond where the Ents could search. Some fans speculate they might have traveled to distant lands, where they could create new gardens in peace. Third, and this is hinted at in the text, they may have encountered men and taught them agriculture, possibly losing their tree-like nature over time. There are references to the Entwives having contact with men and teaching them the arts of cultivation. Now, here's something fascinating. At the Council of Elrond, there's a brief mention that's easy to miss. Merry asks if anyone has heard news of the Entwives, but no one has. However, in earlier drafts of Tolkien's work, he considered having the Entwives discovered in the Shire after the war, having survived all along in hiding. But he ultimately decided against this, leaving their fate mysterious. In his letters, Tolkien addressed the question of the Entwives directly. In letter 144, he wrote, "I think that in fact, the Entwives had disappeared for good, being destroyed with their gardens in the War of the Last Alliance. This seems pretty definitive. Tolkien himself believed they were destroyed. But he also left room for hope." He continued, "But I did not make this explicit, since in my world, all interpretations are possible. So even Tolkien wanted to leave some ambiguity. The tragedy of the Entwives isn't just their disappearance, it's the not knowing. Treebeard and the other Ents are condemned to eternal uncertainty, always hoping, never finding. What makes this even more poignant is what it means for the Ents' future. Without the Entwives, there can be no more Entings, no young Ents. The Ents are a dying race, the last of their kind, slowly fading from Middle-earth. Treebeard knows this. He says, 'It is sad that we should meet only thus, at the ending. For the world is changing. I feel it in the water, I feel it in the earth, and I smell it in the air. I do not think we shall meet again.' The loss of the Entwives sealed the Ents' fate. They're not just separated from their loved ones, they're watching their entire race slowly go extinct. Did the War of the Ring change anything for the Entwives? Could they have returned after Sauron's final defeat? Unfortunately, probably not. If they survived at all, they'd been missing for over 3,000 years. The world had changed beyond recognition. Their gardens were long gone, turned to dust and ash. The Ents they once knew were fewer and older. And if they died in Sauron's earlier wars, as Tolkien suggested, then Sauron's final defeat came far too late to save them. In the end, the Entwives represent one of Tolkien's most melancholy themes: the passing of ancient things, the inevitability of loss, and the sorrow of separation that cannot be mended. Their story isn't about a quest or a battle. It's about the deep sadness of growing apart, of losing something precious, and never knowing if it could have been saved. If you enjoyed this exploration of one of Middle-earth's saddest mysteries, please subscribe for more Tolkien deep dives. Leave a like if this moved you, and tell me in the comments, do you think the Entwives could have survived? Take care, and see you in the next one.